There you
Hello,
go.
everyone. And we weren't exactly ready for that one to start that way, but welcome to Gally and Timucin's first shot at a watch along together, and it started with a plum. But for
We've
any,
done one before, haven't we?
I don't think me and you did one together, did we? I can't remember. Maybe we did one. I know we've
Getting
done.
old, man. I don't remember what the hell I
We
ate.
are getting old. I'm very old. For any of you tuning in for the first time, my name is Gally. I'm going to take us through the host chair today, joined by Timucin, our normal host. And I think you must like having a day where you get to play second fiddle a little bit. It's like sitting in the coach
Yes,
chair and not having to worry. It's
it
like when you
is.
go up
It's
to
like,
drive.
like a substitute teacher. Like you just sit in the background and, kind of like do your thing. Yeah, I do like that. The occasional break from directing traffic is always nice. Which we're
And
doing the goal rush
I
and
was
looks
just going to
like
say, looks
Palace
like we're getting
Newcastle is the game.
Palace.
Yes.
So, an interesting choice by the Premier League to give us this match today, Palace and Newcastle. I think we can maybe in a few we'll bring up the lineups and we'll talk a little bit about that, just so everybody knows.
Did
In
you have
case,
a preference?
what's that?
Did you have a preference, like in terms of which
Uh,
match?
no, I think I'm pretty open to any of them. I kind of was hoping it might be the Brentford Leicester match. I do want to talk a little bit about what's happening at Leicester, but we have plenty of time here. I was hoping it would be that match purely because I wanted to see what that response would be like from those players. Um, and I kind of like watching Brentford because I like
Yes.
Thomas Frank's style. I like that they attack.
We'll be
But
guaranteed some goals, that's for sure.
yeah, we are getting right at it here with Newcastle. Looks like they're on the front foot. Good to see that Tonali's in the lineup. Wonder which way his bets went this afternoon.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Um,
what was his? Oh,
here's a
that's a good run.
that is a good run. Was that Isak or was that Willick? Couldn't tell who was making that
I
run
thought
down
actually
that.
that looked like Livramento, wasn't it?
Oh, what? I couldn't tell. I
Well,
looked
let me
over
look
right.
at the lineups before I bluff over here, but I'm pretty sure it was because it was on the right hand side too, and he's playing right back today.
What do you think of speaking of fullbacks for Newcastle? We'll start there with them. What are your thoughts on this Lewis Hall kid? Because I know he had a few appearances for Chelsea, looked bright, um, but I think he was really smart to get himself out of Chelsea and find a club like Newcastle where he can actually get some minutes. And it looks like he's pretty much displaced Trippier in the lineup at this point, which is not shocking based on his form, but maybe a little surprising based on his status at the club, right? Since he's been there, he's been really
Yeah, is
important.
Trippier healthy? I mean, is he able to play
I,
or?
I think he was on the bench for a bit. I'm not sure if he's on the bench today. He may be injured again. Trippier's on the bench.
He's on the bench. Okay.
And he hasn't started, I don't believe. Now, something I didn't realize, because maybe, you get a guy like Trippier kind of comes on later in his career and then makes the big jump. I don't realize that Kieran Trippier is 34 years old.
I mean, I didn't think he was up to, I thought he was like 31, 32, but I
Yeah.
think that's probably one of the issues, right? He has kind of become this like really, I mean, he's shown his age. There were a lot of mistakes at one point last year. So I think that's probably part of why you don't see as much of him. I mean, there was like a streak of like 3, 4 games. Well, that was last season though, right? Like at the end of last season. Oh, we got some action from the Bournemouth gate. Is that my boy NS?
I think it's Evanilson.
Ah, yes, and it is a penalty.
Is it?
That's a penalty.
Where does he catch him, though? Is it on the side?
He's diving right now, and you just made it.
Yeah.
That's a stupid dive. You're asking for it. And sends to the wrong corner. Nice. Early goal.
Justin Kluivert. Well, it's good to get an early goal. So, like I was saying, for anyone that this is new to or not familiar with the Peacock style or the goal rush, we decided we would do this watch along, follow along with the goal rush, which basically means they'll jump into any games where there's a goal, a red card, or maybe even like a really close chance. So we'll be commenting about all 4 matches for anyone either living under a rock or isn't aware. You have Brentford, Leicester, Forest, Ipswich, and Wolves trailing to Bournemouth 1-0 really early on. And of course, the feature match, which we're watching and we'll be commenting probably on more often than not, is Newcastle traveling to Selhurst Park to take on Crystal Palace. And Crystal Palace has been a little bit on the front foot here. They're going forward. You know, they have Eze back, and I think that's massive for them, right? Like to have Eze here, I think we'd all be, most people would say they are shocked at the poor start that Crystal Palace has had this year. And it looks like we have another goal in the Bournemouth Wolves match. So clearly Peacock decided to put the wrong
it always works like that somehow.
Blake says, "What's up, fella?" and then lets us know that Wolves tied it. So if anyone's looking for updates on what might have happened, you can check our comments because we are clearly a little bit behind, but that's okay. And here it is. Is it another Matthias Cunha wonder strike, or is it a goal from Sved Larsson? That looks like Larsson.
Nice header. Yeah, that's a nice header.
That's a big boy right there.
But that's a nice header.
That is a nice header. Looks like
horrible defending.
Can't tell who that assist was from. Bellagrande or whatever his name is, I think. I'll tell you what, man, this Wolves team, they looked putrid. But for any side out there questioning what you do with a manager and when the times aren't going well, I think it's really, really important. Teams should take a look at what Wolves have done here, because they've been close all year outside of one result, and they stuck with their manager, and now they're 2 wins in a row. Potentially this could be 3 on the bounce if they can come back today. And I think they've kind of looks like they've steadied their ship, and they're probably going to get themselves slowly further and further from that drop zone. And I think that's a testament to a side sticking it out with your manager, if the players haven't turned on said manager, of course.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even expect him to be there, right? Like when we looked at early in the season, we didn't expect him there. Who's the only one? Is Leicester the only one who has pressed the panic button so early?
Yes. Some in Southampton would argue that they haven't pressed the panic button because Russell Martin is already being primed for his statue when he wins the championship next season. But I do think Leicester, you know, and let's save a little while. We'll wait till something happens in that Leicester-Brentford match, and we'll talk a little bit about Leicester and maybe what we think of Van Nistelrooy. What are your thoughts on that player that they just showed on the screen? I feel like he speaking of the devil, and the devil's almost jumped at us, Ethan Pinnock. It wouldn't have shocked me one bit if Ethan Pinnock scored that goal, because Ethan Pinnock sits firmly in my wife's fantasy team, which means he scores lots of points, and not in my fantasy team, which means he just gets injured like walking down the stairs. But no, it's going to be an interesting one. Taking a look here, we looks like Bournemouth scored again, folks. It's 2-1 Bournemouth.
Yeah, you can't look at that screen because then you're gonna get spoilers. You gotta occasionally check the. Ryan is in the house. You gotta occasionally check the comments, and you gotta look at the. But that's. Can we switch to that game there? Goal rush.
This is madness. We've had 3 goals in 9 minutes at Wolves. We'll be taking you to that Wolves goal shortly. We'll find out who for Bournemouth, because you brought the screen up, and I was like, oh, look, it's still 1-1 in the Bournemouth game. You took it down, brought it back up. It was 2-1. I was like, maybe not. Here we go.
Oh, nice. Nice pass.
There's our new left back. That's the kid. That's the kid that will be playing left back at Liverpool next season.
You think so?
I really do. I think there's smoke and fire in this one. I saw your video this week earlier, or maybe it was a short where we talked about Robbo and potentially him needing to be replaced at some point. I think that kid ticks all the right boxes, from the fact that he's attack minded. He goes forward, but he also can defend. He represents his country, so he's only 20 years old. If I'm not mistaken, he's Hungarian, so he gives
Yes, we
the
have the
man with
support
the great
flag on.
hair. He gives the man with the great hair a friend, speaks same language, and it makes a lot of sense. And I also don't think he's a guy you have to buy and he has to start day one right away. So maybe you go into Robo's last year, maybe you keep Simicast and you play both of them together, and you give him time to bet in. But he makes a lot of sense. I don't see them splashing big money on a left back because I'm not positive that fullbacks is where Arne Slot's going to want to use his transfer funds. Am I crazy there, or do you think the fullback is as big of a emphasis in this current setup as it is maybe at one of the other positions?
I don't think so, but it's just a matter of need, right? At the same time, I mean, really depends on, and yeah, definitely don't want to get into that conversation, but you know, it depends on like what we do with the other three guys to see who you have to replace. But I
True.
can see, like, when you look at this team right now, you still probably say need somebody. Basically, you would replace Endo, right? And with a guy who's a potential starter in that position as a defensive midfielder. But aside from that, do you have a lot of needs? I mean, you can get like a striker, maybe, you know, you might do something different up front, get a guy that fits slot more, and maybe, you know, move on from Nunez or Jota or whatever the case might be. But at the same time, I don't know. It's just like it really depends on what he wants to do and how much money we have in terms of like the spend, and that again goes back to what we do with the three guys. So I know what you mean though, in terms of like it's not as important in this system, but you know, you're gonna go out for shopping and you only have two things in the grocery list, then you're able to spend a bit more on it.
Cody False 9 says, "Hey lads, how's it going? Thanks for getting in with your comments, Cody. Really appreciate you joining us today. It's going pretty well so far. I mean, we're 12 minutes in. We haven't deleted the entire pod. We haven't shut down our monitor accidentally. We're watching a game that's 0-0, even though 3 goals have been scored somewhere else. So I may just blame the Premier League folks for their selection of this match for us to be viewing. But it's going really well. Thanks for getting in. Football Flashback says, good morning, people, and good morning to Football Flashback. He's got a question for you, Timucin. You are the resident center back. I know what Arne Slot's going to do based on his response to the young lad, but would you start Gomez or Kwanzaa tomorrow? And I'll throw a curveball at you, not just tomorrow. If this is a 4-5 match extended period on the sidelines that it sounds like it could be for Konate. I never like when a player says, now the treatment begins. That doesn't sound like a day-to-day injury.
No.
Or the recovery period begins. That's not a day-to-day injury. Treatment, I would have liked, actually. Who do you think the manager starts? Who would you prefer to see the manager start for an extended period of games?
I would rather have Gomez there right now. Oh, Kevin is in the house. Kevin, we are watching your boys. You gotta be happy about that. We're watching your boys in action right here. So, no, I think I go. Oh, come on. Football Flashback wants to play Endos. Stick to betting, Football Flashback. That is not a. I'm thinking Gomez. I would rather have Gomez. Will he do Gomez? I am not sure. Will he go and say, Kwanzaa, here's your chance again? I just worry a lot more. Both of them have a mistake in them. I just know, in my mind, I'd be more comfortable with Gomez in this game than Kwanzaa. A guy who got yanked twice, or for errors, afraid to make an error, is not a guy you want out there. I think for the second part of the question, I can see different games, different dudes there, like do a rotation there.
Well, I don't think you can.
Gomez. But my initial pick would be Gomez.
I don't think you can just run Gomez out there 3 times in 7 days after basically starting 2 matches in 18 months and expect him to go all day, every day. I think you have a luxury based on the victory in Madrid. Does look like Isak's going to be okay.
I think so. They did a motion sub.
He took a
hobbling.
bump to the hip. It looked like it was more like jarred him, and he was kind of nervous about it. But
Eddie
I
has
know
to
as
ask
someone,
his assistant what to do. So we're not getting anything right now. Eddie is waiting for his assistant to tell him what to do. So
well, yeah. I mean, Tyndall runs the whole show. It's actually why he didn't get the England job, because they were like, we're not taking the crazy-eyed assistant behind you. He cannot come with you. And he was like, no, I won't even interview then.
Well, he is the guy. Like,
yeah,
I just
exactly. You know
put in
that's who
front
you're
of him.
hiring, right? Like, I don't do anything. I just stand here and take shit from Brian Shelton. So football flashback says I'd start Reese Williams. Yeah,
You would.
You would. He's a fighter, all right. He's a fighter. What he's
Nat
fighting,
Phillips has put his head everywhere.
in top form for our academy. Yeah, there's a better chance to see Nat Phillips in this match than seeing any of those. And I think there's even a greater chance
in this game then.
Yeah, there's a better chance of seeing you than Endo at center back. That's for sure. I do remember 2021 football flashback, and we appreciate all your flashbacks. Sir Z said Gomez all day. I think you're going to see Gomez start this match. I think you get a luxury to the fact that you won in Madrid against Madrid, and you're probably have that.
Great
Oh,
ball.
that's a nice ball. You have that.
Nope, he's not.
You have the 15 points in the bag in the Champions League that I think you could see Kwanzaa start against Girona. And then I think you could see Kwanzaa start the League Cup game against Southampton. And I think those are two midweek matches that offer you a little bit of rotation. And then I think you do probably have to think about one of these league matches midweek. Either maybe even the Newcastle or even Everton of getting Kwanzaa back in for some minutes. But it's interesting there to see what we're going to end up having.
I'm going to get rid of the comments. So there's a penalty. I guess it is for Bournemouth. I'm shut the comments up. So just keep the suspense on as we do the live watch along for the goal rush over here. That man, we're missing out on that game, but we're watching Kevin's boys. So there's always that.
Yeah, we appreciate it, Kevin. They are only somewhat looking like paint drying at the moment.
Yeah. Past games are always like this. I don't know why. Like, especially when they're home, it's always very cagey. Maybe Kevin can tell us. I mean, is that basically ultimately how they want to play and then just hit you on the counter or something like that? It always feels like, first of all, their pitch always feels like it's smaller than everybody else's and a lot narrower. And then it always seems like a very defensive game. Both teams, whoever goes there looks cagey as well. Like, if I would probably watch Goal Rush just because, but once I saw it was this game, I might have normally tuned into either Brentford or Wolves game myself. I'm assuming that penalty is having a long check because we have not seen it on Goal Rush yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they just either haven't updated the screen or it hasn't actually been taken. I think he scored it. But Kirkez is one of the main options on Man United's list as new left wing back for 2025, as reported weeks ago. Yeah, so, but here's the thing: those same reports were happening. Those same reports were actually happening on. Were happening for Liverpool long before, so they gave that a penalty.
That's a penalty.
Yeah. I mean, it's a penalty, but it's just, you know what it is? This is one of these garbage situations of keepers doing too much with the ball at their feet for no reason. Like, yes, it's a penalty, but gosh, that's a soft one. And a stupid one at that to give away, right?
This is a stupid one. Yeah, I mean, it's a penalty because, he has the ball. It's just like, I don't know. I understand this build from the back thing. Some of these goalies are just like taking it to the extreme. Oh, Joelinton is down, holding his shoulder. That does not look good because he couldn't.
No, and he's had shoulder. I think he's had shoulder dislocations in the past. And as someone who had massive reconstructive surgery, that is a dislocated shoulder 100%. Like I almost lost my left arm. Yep, that pops out right there. as he's going to the ground, at least a portion of it. He might be able to continue, but you can usually tell when a player holds it like that tight to their body.
Yeah.
That it's not in the right place.
Depends on. I used to play with Abram Ichus, who's a photographer now, of all things. I would have never guessed. He was like a major hooligan, kind of a dude when we were playing soccer. He was our goalie, and this dude's shoulder would pop out like a fucking Lego piece. And I remember, like, he would be. I remember vividly, and he would came to the point he would pop it in himself. Because I remember, like, there was one time, like, like I hit it out to a corner kick. And then he's like whinging in pain. And I'm like, are you good? He's like, hold on, I'll be fine. And then he's like, oh. And I was like, oh, God. I got injured just watching him popping it back.
The doctor showed me eventually because I kept going when I'd separate it. And like after a while, it starts to happen like when you're putting on a shirt, when you're taking a shower. Like it would just pop out. But not like fully dislocate, just like slightly separate it. Oh. And he'd show me, he's like, you just got to get your elbow in, turn your hand out. And when you go straight up, your arm will naturally go back into place. But you feel that like ball make the move and pop back in. And I will tell you, newsflash, I've not given birth. But people, when they talk about like certain feelings
on
of
a Saturday
pain,
morning, man, it's all
the
about
shit you
news.
learn. The shit you learn doing goal zone on Saturday mornings. Looks like we got a goal in the Brentford and Leicester
like
game.
Joelinton is coming out, by the way.
Yeah, we'll be off to that as soon as that comes back in. We'll review that together on air. But the shoulder thing, it was brutal. Here we go. Leicester City.
Wow,
with the goal. I mean, I will say Brentford doesn't keep clean sheets. No, that's Isak coming out.
Oh, really? I hate to say it, but as a Liverpool fan, should we be almost happy and rooting for some Newcastle injuries as we head over there next?
I think you're definitely rooting for Newcastle injuries.
Who is that center back that Vardy shouldered off like 5 feet? I mean, the dude took off with one shoulder from.
Oh, I think that was Ethan Pinnock.
Was it? Yikes.
Yeah, and he's usually a pretty good player.
By the way, Kevin says Palace players look bored. Tell you what, we're bored.
So makes sense. I mean, are they watching the match? I mean, if you told me Palace players' wives look bored, I would agree. But it is really, really poor, to be honest. And I feel like it's so weird because they look so good at the end of last year. And I think sometimes when you get at the end of a season like that, I think sometimes you do go on these little runs and it comes across like you're a much better side than you actually are. And I'm not sure
do you think those are because like it's just more about freedom? You're like, oh, okay, well, we're not getting relegated. We're not going anywhere. Let's just go out and play and like clear our minds kind of a deal. Like, because a lot, like every season, there's one or two teams that do this, right? They started like they finished the season where beginning of next season, you're like, if they build on that, and then it's like nothing, like it's not the same team at all. Is it because of changes that happen in summer, or is it just they were playing with no expectations and no like meh, whatever, let's go out there and play, and from that you go to perhaps expectations now because of how you finished?
I think it's partially the expectations piece to your point. I think it puts pressure on them. I think sometimes the teams change too. Like at the end of last season, they hit a rich vein of form. They had a new manager bounce because they finally replaced Roy, and the young Hurstler came in and was doing a nice job. Or Glasnow, I'm sorry. Hurstler's the guy at Brighton, but Glasnow was in. Everybody loved him, right? He was the toast of the town.
Yep.
And I think that works, but he was also playing to maximum strengths. Mateta was honestly one of the most informed strikers the last 2 months of the season.
Oh, some action here. Oh, goal line clearance by Forrest.
So
I think it is a goal line clearance.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
It's a good one.
And
I thought Harvey Barnes might score a goal on his first touch. But yeah, I just think that sometimes you look at these teams and you think about what played into the great run they went on. And you had an informed striker. You had Eze angling for a big move, and you had Elise pretty much knowing he had been fit for the first time in a long time. So I think in some ways there's something to that. Oh, looks like Brentford. I'm going to say Brian Mbeumo.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of the guy who can score,
Wisa.
Yeah.
All he does is score these tap-ins.
Nice. Let's go Rondo. Gotta give him that. That's a great pass right there. Again, Goal Rush has picked the game with no goals or rush.
100%. And as I said earlier, as you would expect, I captained Brian Mbeumo this week, and therefore he scores no points. Kelly has a central defender who finds his way into the box and gets an assist.
I think Brentford come back and win that game.
Yeah. The saddest part is my dog is beating me as well, and he started a team in the second week of the year.
Just pick it with the paw.
I let him bark at the screen, and no, I actually read this article about how like some managers and people in fantasy overthink it all summer trying to find the perfect team, and maybe the best strategy is to actually start a team the second week of the year. Yes, you have that 1 week to make up all those points, but you have all the knowledge of like
who's going to be what,
starting lineups,
ways
teams are playing. You find out that there's some defender on a team like Leaf Davis who came up from the championship, but is their attacking most creative player in their side, and he's a $4 million defender, and you can stash him on your side. Like, you just learn so much more info about the game and like how it's going to go. And I tried it, and in shocking fashion, like, yes, it was week 2, but this team literally has gone from like strength and is just strongly improved all the way. And now on week 12, 13, it's so much better off than my team, because my team was such shit from all the mistakes I made that I had to use the stupid wild card early. Where
it takes forever to kind of like reshape, because you have to make 4 or 5 moves just to reshape things.
Yeah. So it was an
fantasy anymore, buddy. It's a pain.
But it was an interesting like article and mindset, and like, when I read it, I was like, I'll give it a whirl. I bet it will never happen. And then, 12 weeks in, the fucking dog's beating me. But that makes sense because my wife can barely spell these teams' names, doesn't even know what cities they play in, and she beats me. So just shows you don't need to know anything about it to, claim to know anything about it. But this game is getting a little bit more open. Believe it or not, it seems like it's more wide open since Isak came
we just don't have goals, really. It's been like, it is still cagey, though, but there's some space out there to be taken advantage of. That wasn't a foul. That's kind of a rough one. Football Flashback says, my city mate said, I'll run to Anfield from my house if we get a draw. Yeah, all these things are what's scaring me about this game tomorrow. So, like, the overconfidence of fans, because we did this in the United match and stuff and derailed the season. I'm afraid of the same thing. So let's just win this game. I really don't care if it's ugly or not. But it is not going to be as easy or dominant, I think, as everybody thinks. Or I might be, and I'm more than happy to be wrong and have it be an easy win and run all over them. But I just don't see it.
I don't think it'll be easy, but I don't think where the confidence is coming from is misplaced. Where I think last year there were cracks in that Liverpool side going to United.
But we were playing United and they were horrible.
Yeah, but that's different to me. To me, that's more another goal in Brentford-Leicester. Won't shock me at all to see that it's Brentford and that it's Wisa again. Oh no, Brian Mbeumo this time. Back to Wisa. How awesome would it have been if it was
he got an assist though, didn't he?
It was Ethan Pinnock. Are you effing kidding me?
He can't defend, but he can score. Well, you get an assist, though, dude.
I hope so, unless somebody touched it along the way and it touched the defender. So I don't think
it doesn't count.
I don't think so. It's
like a deflection, man. Ooh, some good
This
shot,
one
by the
might
way.
count. That one they might give you that.
Yeah, see, Kevin said City haven't won for a while, so probability says they will, unfortunately. I just think, they have still the players and the team to cause you problems. It's just
I
not
don't know
clicking.
I don't know that they do, though, Timucin, and this is the problem. I think Kyle Walker is done at this level. I think Bernardo Silva is close to done if he has to be someone who's working. And their midfield, I don't know how they're going to handle the running of this. That's him.
Oh, no
That's
way,
a great save.
Was that the goalie? Oh, he's offside.
Oh, offsides. That was the goalie. I think Pope makes that save.
Wow, yeah. They're showing Pope, so you must be. But yeah, that was a crazy save. Who was off?
Maybe the initial pass. This one.
Oh, that one, you think? Okay. Ooh,
that's
that
a
is
great
a good save.
Man.
You could
I guess
argue you got to smash that a bit better than that, but I mean, he did all he can.
I don't know what else can he do there. He's
Yeah.
reaching just to get to it. But to my City point, I think that midfield, had they had Rodri, even if they had a healthy Kovacic, who is not Rodri or even Rodri light, but he can at least do a job. I mean, if they plan to start Gundogan in the deepest midfield position tomorrow, they're in trouble.
I'm guessing Nunez.
Even that, I mean, I think he gets outrun a little bit, and I don't disagree. Doku's not good enough. He's not.
Don't you
he's
think
not what Raheem Sterling
is better than that United team? Having said that, there's something to be said about Liverpool versus United. Just the rivalry.
That to me is. I also think City comes. You remember last year's Anfield match where City came to park the bus and play for a 0-0 draw. They went up 1-0. We got the goal in the second half, and we should have won 3-1.
Yes.
We dominated the play. I think there's something in Pep's head. He tinkers too much against Liverpool. I think he's going to do it again. I think he doesn't want a new manager rivalry with Liverpool. He talks about Anfield all the time. I think the crowd will be up for it. And I just come back to Kyle Walker, Akanji, like even Ederson. Ederson looks like he's taken a step back. City has one clean sheet all year. They're leaking goals, and no one knows if John Stones is fit. Kevin De Bruyne, obviously there's a problem with De Bruyne or something going on, because not starting him once during this 6 matches kind of shocks me too. So I'm not saying that we should have all this confidence, but
I get the reason for the confidence, but
I'm not afraid of them.
I'm not talking about like a reeling freaking Ipswich team that you're facing at the end of the day. Like they still have Holland and stuff. They still have guys who can do something against the run of play and hurt you. That's why I guess I don't have as much confidence.
I do agree with that. I guess my thing is, if you ask me to rank the players, I'd say we have more guys that look like they can turn it on and hurt somebody. Like I feel like we have more players in our side right now at the form they're in and the way they're playing and the way they're clicking, that there's a better likelihood that we come out and score 3 goals than City goes out and scores 3 goals. And I think they're going to give us some chances, but I also think they're going to play for a draw, because I think he knows all they can't do is lose. They need to win, but they just can't lose. 8 points is make-upable. 11 isn't.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm more it's like if we win tomorrow, I would, because Arsenal has, let's see what they do this afternoon. I don't expect anything coming out of that game from West Ham, but I feel like their fixtures for the next at least 3-4 games is a lot more favorable, so they might be able to do something there. But yeah, I mean, Kevin says just don't underestimate. I'm assuming the best club on the team on earth for the last many years, and that's the thing. I realize they're aging, missing some key pieces. You just never freaking know. I guess I just hate that whenever we go into a game overconfident is when it backfires on us. I'm sure the team is not overconfident, but the fans seem way overconfident, I think, for what we're facing. But
I just feel like it's just because you're shocked we're in the position we're in. Because I think any club in the world that had played as many matches as we've played, had as great of results as we've had, only
by the way,
dropped 5 points in 20, almost 20
yeah,
competitive matches. It is hard. It's almost like you're trying not to build yourself up for it. You know what
I
I
know
mean?
exactly. Yeah, a little bit. Can someone explain to me why it has suddenly become the biggest issue in the world where the ball is placed during the corner kicks? Because 3 years ago we didn't give a damn. Now we have to like analyze like what's happening with it. Oh, that is some counter,
Oh, that
man.
is some kind of ball by the little Milky Maestro.
Oh, I
Gotta
think
go
he's
in.
off though, isn't he? What? How the fuck did he miss that, Kevin?
I'm sorry, but I'll tell you what, when you see Ismail Sarr playing in this side, you understand why so many people saw such big things for him when he was at Watford. He
Oh, that is a
really,
great ball, dude.
you can't miss that.
Oh, come on. Is he a righty and had to hit with the left? Because that looks
No,
like me hitting with the left.
he's
Who is that?
he's their left back.
Yeah, that's bad. Because it looked like when I hit with my left, as because I only use it to stand on normally. That's what it looked like, but yikes. Cody says, "How did Edwards find such a gem in slots?" I think it's a good analysis of like finding a guy that has a similar system. I mean, he does keep saying that he has a similar system, and that's probably really helped implement stuff. But I really think, and that's the thing, it just feels like right now there's so much more to come. This is just like the initial stages kind of a thing. Bear in mind, we had a short summer. We didn't even have a full summer because of the tournaments and shit.
I understand. I understand where someone would say, no one saw it coming. But there were reports. It's just, no offense, Liverpool supporters were just too caught up in Xabi Alonso taking the job and how well Leverkusen was doing. They didn't want to hear about any other names.
Yeah.
Because Slot's name was there with Amorim the whole time. Slot's name was there with Xabi Alonso the whole time. He was one of the few guys. And, he turned down the Spurs job before Ange took it. And there was another Premier League team, maybe it was West Ham or someone who tried even the season before to come and ask him about coming, and he turned down talking to them as well. Maybe it was Brighton after De Zerbi. But there were other options for him in the Premier League. And I honestly think he would have turned down even another Premier League job. He wasn't going to turn down Liverpool. I don't think he was ready to leave Feyenoord. Because I mean, if you watch that Feyenoord team play against City, you could see it still has his footprint all over it, in my opinion.
Yes. You know what I like seeing is, when we, first of all, I watched way too much Leverkusen shit initially. And then, so I did not watch anything till the slot was official. But once it was official, I looked at a lot of Feyenoord stuff, and you see some of that same shit, and that's unreal. This fast. Like, like some of the goals they scored, like the build up from the back and stuff. And I'm like, holy cow, we're seeing the same exact thing already. Palace makes me nervous playing this in the background over here.
Yeah.
I hate to say it's that's a foul. That's a hip check, bro. I mean, aren't you amazed that like somebody like Chelsea, for example, didn't go after Sarr and throw him in the mix too? Like I thought he would go. I mean, he was rumored a ton when he was in Watford, right? To come to like Liverpool and go other places and stuff like that. I'm kind of shocked that did he go to Saudi League or something for a little bit, or am I misremembering?
He did. He went to. He didn't go to Saudi League. He went to Marseille, which at times I think can make you feel like you went to a foreign country because they're at war. The club is at war with their fans and their management and their managers. But yeah, he was at, I think it was Marseille. He had a really good year, I think, in French football, and that got him the moderate money move. And I mean, probably was a lot to ask him to try to replace Elise to start the year right away, right? You're replacing a big
Yeah.
piece of the club. Palace is. How did Palace not score on that break?
I have no idea. Honestly, he went. Watford spent 30 getting him from France, and then sold him back for 13. And I think they were relegated at the time, right? When they sold him. And then
he spent a full year in the championship.
Yeah, looks like it. Yes.
Might have even spent 2 years because Watford's been gone for a while now, which is why we haven't heard of the 18 different Italian managers they've hired during.
Yo, no shit. And then he went from Marseille to Palace for 15. So really, that's not too bad. I mean, that's a good buy, I think, for 15. But I mean, here's the thing: I don't watch him week in and week out. Sometimes, especially with wingers, like you watch either highlights or like even the extended highlights. You're like, oh, this guy is pretty good, but then you don't see him just slacking off, not helping defense or losing the ball over and over again and all that kind of shit. If you don't watch him like regularly, if they're a team that's sorry, Kevin, I don't watch Palace as much. For example, this morning, if it wasn't the goal rush pick, this would not be the game I pick. I would pick the Brentford game like we were talking about earlier.
I definitely probably would have started with Brentford Leicester, but I think after about 6 minutes, I would have switched over to the Wolves. Yeah, I would have had FOMO and I would have been afraid. And then there'd be 3 goals in the Leicester Brentford match within 3 minutes. And that would piss me off. And I'd switch back. And then I would have missed the third for Bournemouth. I do think there's going to be more goals. Let me ask you this. When it comes to Ipswich and the Ipswich Forest match, right? Is this kind of things coming back, like Forest coming back to earth? Is it the fact that Ipswich has proven so far this year, even in losses, they're a difficult side to play and that they're going to always make you play them, and they're not an easy side to play because Forest has come back to earth a little bit over the last 2-3 match weeks, which I'm sure they expected. They weren't going to finish in the top 4, but what made them so plucky early in the year was they were popping up and scoring goals. Is it just down to the fact that Chris Woods is a little tired, and if Chris Wood isn't scoring, they really aren't much?
Really, that's what it comes down to. And honestly, we thought they're going to do well. I mean, shit, I don't know, like a month or 2 ago, we were talking about, they won't get relegated. We weren't talking about them being in the top 6 or anything. We were like, they won't get relegated because they're scoring goals kind of a thing. So I think that's been the biggest deal. To me, like Forest and Ipswich are similar in the sense that, they're physical. They want the set pieces. They want like the aerial battles and stuff like that. Forest just has a lot more quality players on the ball that, Ipswich does not. So obviously they're going to collect more points, and they have a guy like Woods who can finish regularly. So this game can go any which way, I guess. So in that sense, it makes it interesting, the Palace game.
Yeah, well, it feels like any second now, though. I do feel like it's coming. Doesn't it feel a little bit like Palace had those couple opportunities, drove down the field, took it into the box. Now Newcastle's almost got their foot on the ball a little bit more. They're creating some space, getting crosses into the box. It just feels like eventually here. I called that a foul.
Really? Yeah.
What the Christ, man. I don't even know how you're supposed to defend anymore.
Yeah, I would not want to be a defender now. It's kind of like I mean, it's the inconsistency though. Like some of the stuff. Oh, this guy's getting his ass beat. Which I can use. He can use a couple of weeks off. Give him some rest. He's the guy that worries me, like in midfield physically. I mean, like that's a game that you want Szoboszlai out there for example. Like you want your own physical fast dude in midfield. He got hammered
Well,
by
you
his.
brought it up, so you brought it up. We can touch on the topic then. Who would you be starting in midfield against City tomorrow, knowing that you got to travel to St. James's Park in less than 3 days and go play another Premier League game on Wednesday afternoon? And you just said Soboslai. Are you starting Soboslai, McAllister, and Gravenberch, or does Jones get the nod against City and then you go back to Soboslai, or you have him late as a sub that worked so well against Madrid? What are you going to
Yeah,
do
I
in that
think I do
midfield?
the same thing as Madrid. I start with Jones. He can still like outrun their midfields, and then you bring in Soboslai to a tired midfield of City who cannot bring. I think that's one thing. You even like obviously Madrid has injuries, but you look at the benches and you look at City's bench last week when we were doing the live watch along. It's like who's going to come in? Like nobody's going to come in to save the day. In terms of legs, like stop the bleeding or control the game and stuff like that. So whereas you have bodies you can kind of throw in there and get some fresh legs in. So I would say Jones because I do think Szoboszlai is a better fit against Newcastle, and then you can bring Szoboszlai in the 60th or something like that, and do the reverse maybe when you go to like Newcastle. That's a tough away game, but you gotta win. I mean, if you win this one, you can afford losing points at a Newcastle away, and there wouldn't be a shame in coming back with a draw from like Newcastle away. It would probably lot for weeks, but
I was surprised when I think it was the Anfield Wrap maybe a couple of weeks ago. I was getting my oil changed and I was listening to some 45-minute podcast that one of the 8 that they published that afternoon. But I was listening to the podcast and it was like kind of like their thoughts over the next 4 matches, and it blew my mind. Genuinely blew my mind that they had so much concern about the points that could get dropped. Like there were a few of them that over those 4 matches were saying things like, oh, I could see us getting 8, 8 points out of the 12. As long as we get 7. I saw one of them say, as long as we get 7 and the 3 are against Newcastle. Like these are like, and I understand they're from Liverpool, so ingrained in them is to not take a trip to Goodison lightly, especially the last trip to Goodison. Because I do think Everton will be up for that game. I don't know what Everton will show up. They may come out and just kick us off the pitch the whole afternoon. They may come out and try to muck it up to a 0-0 draw and nick one late. Or they might just come out and be like, screw it. Our fans are going to boo us at full time anyways. We might as well just go for it and get throttled here today. Like,
yeah, I think they just park it on that. They play vintage Shandouche football. They just like park it. It's just a matter of are you gonna be able to break him down? And I'm like in those games, I'm a bit more confident than I used to be because I feel like we are not as open on the counter as we used to be. Like because we're not pushing up everybody. Oh, and they're getting their heads on these balls. It's just not.
How many is this guy gonna miss? That guy's missed 2 or 3.
Ooh, it did. I mean, not that it was going to goal, mind you, but it did take a hit off the Newcastle guy, I think.
I think he's the guy right there, that LaCroix. I was blaming the fullback, Munoz. I think it's that LaCroix guy is the guy who missed that shot.
Here it comes again. Oh, freaking hell.
What is going on here?
Those are some good set pieces too, man. Like it's going like, those are some dangerous balls in. Somebody's gonna finish those.
Oh, that was the first. I was
wondering what these names were like Kevin was throwing out there.
Kevin, we're feeling for you, man, because if I was forced to watch this every single week, this is some frustrating football, man. Like,
yeah,
they've had so many opportunities, yet anytime Newcastle has the ball in the final third, they also look like they're susceptible to give up a goal.
And that's the thing. But this is
Got to be
exactly why
maddening.
I'm always afraid of a Crystal Palace away game. And I thought that was a huge win when we won over there because
It is a tough
this
place to
is
go,
them.
right?
Yeah. I mean, I
I mean,
think City
City,
goes there in 2 weeks, and I
and they
don't.
struggle.
Yeah, because of how they play and they can create stuff. It's just a matter of like, are they going to be finishing him that day?
What are your thoughts on Mark Guy as a central defender? I know he was a big talk of the town. You know, he had
Yeah.
he had a great Euros. Um, was a big piece of that. What were your thoughts there?
I mean, honestly, having seen, what Konate can be, and I still think it's not like, he's going to give up on, he's not going to give up on like Kwanzaa and stuff like that. I always felt, I know everybody's like, we need the center back because we were afraid of Konate, right? Because he didn't finish the season that hot. So we were kind of like afraid of him. But I think I would not want to invest because he has the English tax on top. So the price is so obnoxious for what you're getting, especially for what you need, I guess is where I'm at with that. I know
Yeah,
I like the player, and yes, you would love to have him, but it seems a luxury for the price tag given what you have.
yeah, I do feel like I think you could find someone on the continent
Yeah,
that would give you better value for your purchase.
exactly. Yeah.
That is a left-footed center back. Now, I will say, had we bought him 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when he left Chelsea and went to Crystal Palace, right? At that moment when he became a household regular name. And I think he'd be pushing right now saying, like, hey, this guy over here, I'm good enough to replace. Like, I don't think he's Virgil van Dijk, but I think he's good enough to be the number one center back at a Premier League contender. I think he could go. I think he could go back to Chelsea right now and be their best center back.
Yeah.
I think he could go to United and, you know, until Lenny Yoro shows that he's actually a full-time footballer that plays football. I could see him being one of their top center backs. So I think he's got the talent, but I'm with you. I think Newcastle was being told 70 million in the summer. Like, that's not a $70 million footballer. And anyone who saw, what happens when you overspend, Harry Maguire was a good football player when he played at Leicester City. His problem, he didn't stop being good at Man United. He was still good with England. His problem was the expectations due to the price tag he couldn't live up to. So even his decent performances became train wrecks. And then he became, in my opinion, the scapegoat for everything going wrong at United. And it's funny. Amorim
Yeah.
the other day actually said, when someone said, so we should expect blah, blah, blah. He said, Harry Maguire's in my plans. I'm going to give him a chance at some point because I want to see every player in the system before we make decisions on which players are going to stay and go.
Well, that's the thing, though. Once he gets a couple of counters on fucking Maguire,
don't get
he
me
might
wrong.
change his tune. I think that's the problem with Maguire. He was good where he was because of how they played. He's not as good on a team, like United. And here's the thing, honestly, like for United, I mean, long may it continue, but it's a tough gig playing defense when the people up top are not of no help to your defending. So your midfield gets exposed. I mean, I always thought like, McTominay and Fred and all those guys always got exposed because they're doing like the job of like two and a half men because the guys up top are not doing shit. But halftime in all the games.
Yep, we just went to half in the last 0-0. One. So we got 0-0. We'll take a quick break and we'll come back. Do we have we gotta bring up the screen here?
There we go. I have the ticker going right now. It's a good time to get the second cup of Joe. Sparky is joining us. Good morning. You guys are like late getting up, man. I guess he's like an hour ahead of us, but still, that's late. But yeah, hop on and then we'll be back for the second half in a few minutes over here.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We are just getting ready. The second halves are all getting ready to start. In all of our excitement of getting to halftime and refreshing our cups of coffee, we missed the third goal. Brentford scored again to go up 3-1.
Score.
They played 175 minutes of extra time, so it makes sense that there
Oh,
was enough time for them to add another one in. Speaking of adding another one in, when the alarm clock works, people show up for work.
it's the
Sometimes they show up
Sleeping
late.
Beauty.
If it isn't our sleeping giant, Maka, how's the Irish lad doing this morning?
This is what happens when you work 40 hours in 3 days and they get 3 hours
Oh,
sleep
don't
every
give
day.
me a sob story.
It's always something. There's always, I guess what I'm getting out of this is Jesus never sleeps.
He never
That's
does.
basically what
He
I'm
never
hearing.
does.
He does not sleep. He does not take a day off except for Sundays. And well, damn it, today's not Sunday.
Exactly.
But we are back. We are excited. They are just getting ready, I think, to get this thing cranking. So as soon as the players hit the field, we will give you that. We'll talk about it. We'll start the commentary, what's happening in the other matches, and keep you up to date. I should mention now, in case we have any new viewers or listeners, if you have found us for the first time ever, lucky you. But please go over, give the page if you're not on our YouTube page right now, please go over to YouTube and subscribe to the channel. Smash that like button, as the kids say today. It goes a long way in helping us, and we're just trying to grow this content. We're all volunteers here, but we enjoy this very, very much, and we appreciate you being here and viewing. I'll drop the link in the chat in a moment for anyone who might be following along on Facebook. We appreciate you there, but would really love to have you subscribed over at our YouTube channel. So we do a lot of content, both Premier League and Liverpool centric. And it's a great opportunity to get involved with a great community of like-minded Liverpool and football fans, both American and non, as Maka proves. We bring them in from all angles, all over the globe, all kinds of accents. And they're walking out on the pitch right now. And I got to tell you, Kevin, this does not look like an overly confident or excited group of Crystal Palace players. Like they are kind of like and you said it before, like, are they just going through the paces? Like, I'd ask you how the first half was, Maka, but you'd update me on the dream. So, Timucin, what is it about
working?
This?
I don't know, man. I mean, it
was
typical Palace at home, right? Anything can go either way. By the way, speaking of American Scouts and all that kind of stuff, we'll make it official and do all the announcements on the social media as well. But I am proud to announce we do now have an account on Mastodon if you're using that. I know, like, I was recommended to it, so we do have an account for American Scouts there now, and we do have it for the Blue Sky Social as well. So we'll publish those. So if you have started using either one of those as your social media avenue, you'll have access to all our good stuff over there as well, and give us a follow there. But we'll probably make a posting later on this weekend or Monday or something like that with all those links for you guys to follow. But going back to the game, and now that we started the action back again, I don't know. It felt like it could have gone either way, but I can also very well see this game ending 0-0.
Yeah. This to me, as soon as Isak went off, I started to question myself, like, where's that goal coming from? And I know Gordon had his purple patch last season, hasn't been as good or prolific this season in front of net. So it made me worry a little bit there. And I got to be honest, I also am, really questioning whether or not, Newcastle can rely on, Wilson to be the backup. And I understand he's been injured a long time, but he's always injured. And the fact that their striker had to go off and they weren't even confident to bring the guy in lets you know he can't play more than 20, 30 minutes.
By the way, there's a penalty at the Forest game.
All right. So it looks like we are we are officially going to be watching the only match without a goal. Thank you. No better way to ruin ratings than to try to bring new fans into a sport by airing and talking about the game without any goals.
I was gonna say that. Why not switch? Like
I think
do the NFL flex thing, right? Going like after like 20 minutes, you're like, you know what? Maybe this was not the game, man. Why don't we go over here? Because like you're saying, if you're trying to do it where, and here's the penalty.
Oh yeah,
it's a theatrical dive, but it is a penalty, nevertheless.
He kicks out his foot, right? He hits his foot. Once he touches him, oh, that's a penalty.
Yeah, that's a penalty. I mean, he fouled.
I mean, he doesn't need to go down like Jota, but his name is Jota.
Yeah, he fouled.
His name is Jota.
Oh, I guess who scored?
It was a Sterling special though. That was the Sterling flop. Do you know there's like the Fosbury flop in the high jump? There's the Sterling flop in soccer.
You know what the funny thing is, I see in youth soccer people try to do that, and there's a certain skill to it that they underestimate. So it becomes very, very obvious. What part of Ireland is Mecca from? Man, I have so many jokes to put in there, but I'm going to let it go. I'll have Mecca do it himself. What part of Ireland are you from?
The part with the leprechauns and the Guinness and the potatoes.
Isn't that the whole country?
Everywhere except Dublin. No, I'm from Dublin. I'm from the capital city, where the girls are so pretty.
Did you live there as long as you were there, Maka? Were you guys always right in the same either community or area of Dublin, or did you move around? I know.
We moved around. We moved to if there's a place that has high crime rates and a large contingent of gang members, we lived there, and then we moved out.
I thought you were going to be like, if there was a good sweet shop somewhere, we would move over there or something like that.
Well, we used to have things because we were in very urban areas. We had things that they were shops but they were just caravans. It was just somebody bought a caravan and then went to a wholesaler's and bought loads of candy and then sold them from their caravan.
A child kidnapping scheme, doesn't it?
That's also one of those too, yeah. I was just too fat to get kidnapped. I didn't fit through the door. They didn't throw sweets at me through it.
Albeit far from me to bring this back to footy, but I got to ask you guys, because this right here, right? And Gordon.
What is he doing?
Yeah, I want to get your opinion on this, because I think this player splits opinion quite a bit. Like Dean Henderson. Is Dean Henderson a good keeper? A good shot stopper? Because he does have some really good stats when it comes down to it. But like, obviously United gave up on him more, I think, because of the injuries than anything else. And he did displace two pretty good starting keepers at Palace to win this job, and they've sold since both keepers. What is your thought, Timucin, on Henderson as a keeper? And I ask it because, everything I like to do, I like to bring back to making fun of Manchester United or Everton. So really, I want to know, is Henderson someone who has a chance to fight off Pickford for the number one job in England?
He seems to be like almost like a Simon Mignolet kind of a keeper. Like there's one good part of his game that he can be very good at, and then after that, he's not a modern keeper. He's like an old-fashioned Steve Ogrizovic type. Like he can do one facet of the game really well, and then all the rest are really bad. But he's an English keeper, so they're gonna go, "Hey, he's gonna be the next Peter Shilton because he's got hair and a keeper gloves, and that's it." Because they don't produce. Like if their best keeper in England is Jordan Pickford, they're in trouble. And it's the only time I can say that as an Ireland fan, because we have Caoimhín Kelleher.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's average at best, and that's the thing. Like when he was at United, I think he got screwed. That's one. I don't think he got a fair shot at like a long list of games to show he can be. I just don't think he is. I would not feel confident if Henderson was in my goal game in and game out. He's the kind of guy and it has happened to us, right? He's going to stand on his head one game and save everything, and then next week he's going to look like he's never been in goal. It's like you put like a guy from the pitch in goal the next week. So
Jordan Henderson.
Kevin Benson says shot stopper, but crap distribution, but better than most. Yeah, that's kind of what I feel about him. That and the Simone Mignolet is probably a good comparison, though. I think it might be being a little harsh on him because I think he had a bigger upside, a higher. I think he's actually done more, even in helping Sheffield United stay in the Premier League 1 year. That wasn't a very good Sheffield United team. He had a great loan spell there. I think his biggest problem, and I hate saying this, was that he had a dream to be the Man United #1. And I think there was a period earlier in his career he should have left United.
That sounds more like a nightmare, by the way. But
I think in his mind, though, as a kid who came from the academy, I mean, I think he was told he was in line to be the De Gea replacement. This is good little tricky play. And that
was a nice Mecca. You would be proud of that. It would take a month to practice it probably, but that was nicely done.
That is off the training pitch right there, right?
Yeah, sorry, Kevin. That was nicely done.
Look, you kind of get the impression this season, at least, there's not a little bit from last season, that coaches are getting wise to the fact that smashing the ball into the first man on the wall probably doesn't work all the time. So it's nice to see those little clever things. I think we've seen a few of them from Liverpool, haven't we, under Slot this year? We've had a few things where you expect, like the corner the other night was like the short one and back. That was worked on. That wasn't an improvised thing. But I think just like on Henderson, as like Kevin Benson was saying, distribution is such a huge part of being a goalkeeper now. And if you don't have it, you'll never make the top levels.
So is this an own goal?
Is it?
Because Gordon whips it across.
Yep. Yeah, it is.
Oh, it's my man, Mark Guy.
That's even better. If that was planned, let's do this bit and then whip it off somebody's leg into the goal.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's a good thing it didn't hit that LaCroix guy because he would have found a way to miss the target. I'll guarantee that.
Kevin wishes it hit LaCroix because then he would have missed.
Oh, Kevin, we love you, brother, and we're so appreciative that you're here with us watching today. And we're also appreciative that now every game has a goal in it, and we aren't the curse, because I don't know if anyone would ever watch another goalless goal rush ever again.
And we now know why Kevin is definitely here. So
I'm pretty sure you can sue them under the Trades Description Act for a goal rush with no goals.
Mark?
Yeah, but going back to that, though, why don't they change games? Is it like a contract thing?
No, it's two-parter. So a couple years, when they first did this, I think the first season might have been 5 years ago. Whenever Peacock came out, they came out with this. And it was more like Red Zone. They literally would have picture-in-picture more like this right now, but constantly.
And we have a wrestling
another
match
penalty
at the goal line. Ipswich hanging on for dear life, looks like.
This is a great save if this keeper gets to it.
Ooh, that is some save, dude.
No, and he hits it again on the way down after it hits the bar. Watch this. I think he gets it as he's falling. He gets it again.
Yeah, to be fair, his first punch is really weak, so the second one is what gets the job done.
But man, but what I was saying is they were doing it like American Red Zone. Lots of picture-in-picture.
Oh, okay.
Jumping from game to game, and they got a shit ton of criticism from people saying, "See, this is what Americans don't understand. You can show highlights in a game, but you have to stay on a game to get into a soccer match to feel like you can't go away because any second something could happen and then you'd miss it in the game you're watching. Like they cut over to Stamford Bridge and you miss the goal happening.
Game. I mean, they're showing it by itself. Then go watch that fucking game. If you want to get a feel of the Palace Newcastle game, go watch the Palace Newcastle game. Should be more. I feel like the goal rush is more for like us on a Saturday morning where our team is not playing. We love the Premier League. It's a chance to get to see all the action. It's like almost like watching nonstop highlights of a game. I would rather have that more. I know you can't do red zone because it doesn't work like that. You can't go for every set piece or something like that. But I would rather go from, there are games, these guys are watching it in the studio, right? There are games where you can say, oh man, this game really opened up. It's going really fast. And then you can switch to that game as your main game and stuff. I just hate that they get stuck with a game that you're like, you know what? We know it's a dud, but it is what it is. We made our call this morning kind of thing.
Well, what they ended up doing was they contracted to buy the British feed. So let's say this game was on TV today in America on USA, it would still be different announcers and different camera angles. Like you actually are watching a feed from Great Britain. And that's why you get one match, because they do this and you can pay for it over there. And it's the only way to see the 10 o'clock games.
Yeah.
So it's just a classic. They tried to right a wrong, didn't need to. It's like everything else. Like, I just think that, we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't. It's like American fans complain more than anybody, and we can watch the most of this than anyone in all the world. Like, it costs people in England.
NBC, if your goal is to get more people sucked into the sport, you don't care which channel they're using. Isn't this a great way to get an average American guy who woke up Sunday morning where there's no, the college football hasn't started on a Saturday morning or whatever, so they're like, oh, this is the only sports. Let's see what this is all about and watch it. I hate to say it, if somebody's tuning in right now, because the American game especially is so, unfortunately, score-based, if they're tuning into this right now, they're not appreciating any of the defensive battle or the physical battles or anything like that. Why don't you just bounce around and show them a lot of action, giving the illusion to an American fan? They're like, man, there's a lot happening. I never thought, there was so much action in soccer, kind of a thing.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you.
Oh, that's a great ball. Oh, my God. Does Palace need a striker?
And a midfield and a defense. And a goalkeeper.
And a goalie that we just discussed.
That'd be fine if they had those things.
Mateta hasn't touched the ball all match. These guys seem like absolutely incredulous that was a handball.
I was about to be like, they should put Mateta in, but he's been quiet silent. Are they watching, or did you just show a card?
I think he gave a card, but they're saying it was no penalty. I do think they checked it.
Yeah, just that signal with his neck. So or did that, or you just want to be there, like
isn't that arm to ball? I know it's stuck to the body, but he's leaning towards it, so he's making his body bigger because of the arm.
Yeah, I would have thought that would have at least warranted a little bigger review, but I don't know anything anymore.
Like, I understand that, but you're leaning in, unless it was the shoulder that I only saw it once and it didn't hit the arm itself, but he's leaning into it, making his body bigger by using his arms on the side.
The way he shook his head made me think maybe that's what he was saying. Like, it wasn't hand. It wasn't on the arm. Like,
it could have been a high arm or something like that. Like I say, they didn't even show a lot of like really slow motion replays. So,
well, you made the comment earlier about how there's something weird about this place and how it's always a tricky place to go and the narrow pitch. And obviously you are right. It is a smaller pitch than most other surfaces in the Premier League, but it's not that much smaller. I think the big thing is the ground is so old and the camera angles are so different than anywhere else.
Yeah, it's low. The camera is a lot lower.
And that, I think, it comes to play with why they're having so many problems with the VAR decisions there. Sometimes being like awkward angles that their replays are going on. And I think it's another reason why the video assistant, this guy just took one in the jewels. The video assistant referee, the automated offsides, is taking longer to get into play because there are certain grounds like this one in Bournemouth that it's very difficult to implement that technology. And, only the Premier League would announce they're going to have technology and then figure out that there's multiple stadiums that cause problems for it and then not have it available 3 months later.
They used the Microsoft method of managing. Here's the thing. Oh, it doesn't work yet. Well, we'll do a patch for it later. Hang on.
Why don't you guys troubleshoot it for us? What didn't work for you? What didn't work for you? And then we'll fix all those things. So much for beta testing anything.
It's unbelievable, right?
That's a foul. Yeah. It's been quiet everywhere, actually, in these games, by the way.
I mean, all we had is the one goal, right? Well, we had the goal in this match and the goal in the Forest match.
What happened was they heard the conversation about jumping from game to game, like the red zone thing.
There it is.
They all decided.
Oh my God, man.
The save is good. The defensive block is even better.
And then Darwin Núñez steps up.
You know what?
Man.
Actually, it's funny you mentioned that. Oh, that's that's a great save, though. That's for a defender. That's a good move. What was I gonna say? I don't know why. Something in me says Núñez has like a ridiculous game tomorrow.
It's the type of side that he's set up to play against.
I think that side under the crisis they're under at the back right now it's going to leave gaps that those are the gaps that he gets to exploit.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, and it's a good. Oh, there we go. Some action. Brentford.
Shade. Another.
Leicester is fucking shambles. What do you guys think about the whole Root thing, by the way? I did not get that one at all.
He's a name. I think that's all it is.
I mean, so is Timucin, man.
That's true.
Oh, hear me.
And we can't pronounce yours either, so it works out both ways.
Speaking of a name, speaking of a meme, speaking of a hire, speaking of a questionable decision being made by someone in management or a leadership role, we're going to welcome Kazi into the discussion. We want to balance out. We want to balance out the hair to bald ratio. Oh wait, Timucin wears a hat for a reason. There's a limited resource up there as well. Mr. Kazi, how are you, my friend?
I'm wonderful. Yeah, at least me and Mac have admitted defeat. Timucin's still holding on.
Hey, I'm fighting the fight for the rest of us, baby.
It's like watching Casemiro at United. You just know he's on his last legs and he just won't give it up.
If I got Casemiro's wages for wearing a hat, I'd be wearing it to sleep.
Casemiro's looking to go to Turkey for other reasons, not football reasons.
100%. If I got Casemiro's wages, I'd shave my fucking head and look like you two. And trust me, let me tell you right now, the world is a much safer and better place because I have this hair. And I'm going to hold on to it as long as I possibly can because I shaved my head when I was like a junior in high school for no apparent reason. And it was one of the most awkward things.
Wait. It got me for no apparent reason. What was your thinking at the time? Like, what made you say, you know what? I'm going to do this.
It was a sports thing. The whole team was doing it. We grew our hair all footy season through the whole soccer season, which in America is the fall. And then basketball started and we all had long ass hair. And there was this idea that we would shave it. So we all went into the locker room before we went to our first game of the year. And literally our mothers, our girlfriends, nobody knew. And we literally just took out razors and just started shaving each other's heads and came out like first game of the year, completely bald.
If you were in Alabama, your mothers and your girlfriends would be the same thing. So, you know,
that's a good point.
And
they were not happy though when a whole bunch of kids went into a locker room looking like overgrown bums and came out looking like skinheads or Nazis, and it was not a good look. And next thing you know, we did have an undefeated season though, and actually made it all the way to like the Western Mass.
That's because you were aerodynamic now.
We were
less resistance when you were running.
I just got an email that we're now canceled in Alabama, by the way.
Yeah, well, here I'm going to fill you in on something. We didn't have a fucking listener or viewer from Alabama, anyways, because they just barely got the internet.
We really will not be. We don't know what we're going to do without those two people.
Big love to Alabama. Big love.
Big love. So, Kazi, I'll go to you with this one. Timucin had just mentioned this, and I wanted to get to this topic. So Brentford just scored. They went up 4-1. Brentford over Leicester after trailing earlier in the game. There's a bunch of reports about what's happening at Leicester, and none of it is very good if you're a Leicester supporter. Yeah. So they hire Ruud van Nistelrooy. We'll get there in a second. Let's start with Cooper. Is there any defense for those players taking a holiday Christmas party while a manager is still employed and holding up a sign that says, Enzo, we miss you in 2024 to their former manager while someone else still has the job?
No, it is not acceptable at all.
Thank you.
It's also not acceptable to be where you are in the league and think that's a good idea. It's also not acceptable. And I don't mean by the way, I'm completely on board because I know it was mentioned on like the overlap and stuff with the Rashford thing about going to New York. Fucking just stop, mate. He's just going on holiday, but that's just my opinion. But I do think there's a part of this. The Cooper appointment to me felt like the Nuno with Spurs appointment, when it already felt like it had an end date. It already knew. I think we all knew it the way it was going to go. But like Ten Hag in the summer, we all felt like it was at an end date, and the end date's just going to come eventually. That's what Cooper felt like to me. Do I feel sorry for them a little bit? They've had a lot of injuries, you know. They have had a lot of injuries, but they have a lot of weird players. And I say weird players in terms of, when I think of that squad, gents, they have a lot of players who would have been on Liverpool's radar 3 years ago. Patson Daka, for example, was definitely on Liverpool's radar. Samari was a good player. Ndidi. Like, these type of players would be on a top 6 club's radar. Now, so they have players there who clearly have ability and talent, who can really kick on. Do you know what I mean? And I actually think it's a really good job for Ruud. I actually think it's quite a shrewd little bit of business, you know, gents. I know what Tim just said there, like, he doesn't really get it. I do. He did well at PSV, you know. He does do well at PSV before he goes to United, and I just feel like there's a chance there, bro, to really build a good side. You know what I mean? The one team that comes up, I always think about this with clubs that come up. They feel like a Premier League team. Like Leeds felt like a Premier League team, even when they came up. Like they're Premier League, because they're just a big club. Leicester feel like that. Leicester feel like we're going to finish top 10. That's the attitude that they'll have. And by the way, they are only 9 points off 10. I know they're poor. I'm not saying they're going to finish in the top 10, but it's just all a bit. I just think it's a really good squad of players, isn't it? I think they could do with another striker or get Patson Daka in some way looking like a Premier League footballer for 6 months, because Jamie Vardy's 38.
Yeah.
Vardy's 38 now, and he's still leading the line a little bit. So, incest in me, but I actually think it's quite a shrewd bit of business getting Ruud, and I really do.
Tim, I don't know. I hadn't prepped you or asked you if you had heard that story. Had you heard about the Leicester thing with the party and the sign?
No, I did not hear about that, actually. This is the first
time
I
was thinking
Prague,
and I was thinking maybe it was a pocket of players, a group, right? It was the whole team, a team-sponsored event, and Jamie Vardy was there. And you mentioned Jamie Vardy, and I understand he's not the most mature, and the Vardy party, and I mean, he literally has a tramp stamp tattoo that says Vardy across his back in case he ever forgets his name in the morning, so he can look himself in the mirror.
But he's a very professional Premier League footballer.
That's kind of where I was coming.
Shocks
me that he would allow that.
I agree.
And then for them to come out and put in the performance, because let's not kid ourselves, that performance against Chelsea was criminal. That was stealing money and wages from the supporters and the fans. They didn't even try. So Ruud walks into this. Maka, you've coached all different levels, all different ages. What's the first thing Ruud needs to do when he gets there? Does he need to have a Klopp moment and literally just kick someone out of the first team training and be like, you're gone, you're out, because we don't accept this type of personal behavior for whatever reason? How does he take control? Because Leicester feels like a very, very dysfunctional place. It's less than 6 years ago that Brendan Rodgers had them finishing third in the Premier League and making the Champions League and winning won a cup. They won a title and fired their manager, and their own supporters were like, he only won the Premier League last year, but it was time for him to go. And it was it feels like a place where there's nobody running it at the top. So how does Ruud make himself a success?
Well, the whole episode just reminds me of that time the under-8s had their Christmas party mid-season when I told them not to. And there were so many juice boxes left around.
Chuck E. Cheese,
they were holding up signs saying Paw Patrol for life, but with the number 4 because they were illiterate 8-year-olds.
Yeah.
And just once you get to that stage, there's no coming back. But seriously though, here's what I'll as much stick as I give him, I'll always follow Brendan Rodgers' career around because I do think he's a good field coach, if not a horrendous individual as a man socially. He's the Rain Man of coaches. He's got a talent for something, and then you just can't talk to him unless you want to talk about Brendan Rodgers for an hour. But Leicester, what I found was just looking at Leicester on the forums was that Leicester fans have a huge sense of entitlement, which is not grounded even before the 2016 league title. This is a fan base who thinks that Nigel Pearson was a better manager than Claudio Ranieri. Despite everything that, the fact that he had one short run into 2015 before he got sacked, that for them is like the epitome. Winning the league, oh, that's nothing. He's not Nigel Pearson. 2 5th place finishes in an FA Cup, he's not Nigel Pearson. So that's the culture that's around the fan base of that club. It's not a very supportive one. So you're on a loser as soon as you step foot in the club. So I think the first thing Ruud van Nistelrooy has to do is just get the fans on board. And that's to look at what all the things that Steve Cooper did, which would be the opposite of what Enzo Maresca did. So if Ruud comes in trying to play a possession game again, a quick passing game with innovative formations for English football, which means 3 at the back, essentially. He's probably going to be doing okay. For the players thing, I think he needs to get rid of Vardy. Really?
Eventually. It has to be this year, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It has to be the last year.
Yeah.
He is playing 3 at the back. He is playing 3 at the back now. I know he's not the manager today, but let's not kid ourselves. He's gotten his word across. Yeah. He has taken a training session over with them. So I think they have an idea. He is playing 3 at the back. Interesting that they brought Connor Cody out from the cold, just dropped him right back in. Former, captain of Wolves, veteran player. I think that just gives you some stability. They need some help there. I think, I want to go to Timucin here. When it comes to you, when it comes to this Leicester team, Kazi mentioned getting Patsandaka fit, getting him back. Is a striker, is a second scoring, attacking option maybe the most important thing for this side? That is a great save by Pope, right?
Probably, because we keep saying, got to get rid of Vardy, but he's the only dude that scores for him. So you got to be able to replace him with somebody who's going to get you. We were talking about like Wood. I mean, is Palace ever going to be able to score? This is ridiculous. But I mean, we were talking about earlier about like Woods, for example, for like Forest and stuff. You need a guy, especially down there in the table, who's going to get you some goals so they can get you some minutes.
Patsandaka's never, he's been there for a long. He was there under Rodgers. He's never looked like a Premier League goal scorer.
No, I don't think so either.
He's never going to make it.
My thing with the Ruud thing was, and
here we go. We got a goal. Looks like Wolves get a second.
Uh-oh. Is that Kerkez missing action there? Nope. Ooh.
Strand Larson didn't even himself a day.
The goalie guessed, even though if he just dived there, that was not a goal.
That's defense, by the way. I'm just saying, can you get a tune out of him for 6 months? Can he get you 6 goals? Let's get it right. If he scores 6 to 8 goals, gents, 3 or 4 will be winners. Do you get what I mean? And that's 12 points. And I'm not saying there's players like that around the league, like Danny Ings, for example, so we no longer Premier League quality. But can he get West Ham 7-8 goals? Do you know what I mean? That's what I mean.
My thing with Ruud was I see Leicester fighting for relegation, and clearly you can see today why. Yeah. And I don't know if Ruud is the guy to coach a team fighting relegation. If you did this in the off season, I get it. There might be some growing pains the first 4 or 5 weeks. And then he'll get a system established, get the players he wants, blah, blah, blah. But I just feel like, you needed somebody who has Premier League experience for that. I know it's a name, and he might be able to recruit you some like young Dutch talent or something like that at good prices, maybe get you what you need or whatever. But I just don't think, I don't know. It's risky business, I think, for Leicester, for somebody that low in the table. I can see if, I don't know, like Bournemouth did this, or, Fulham did this or something like that. But I just feel like, I know it's not a lot of points.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you're talking about a team that collected 10 points from like 16 games.
Can I ask a question, though? Because this is important. I think this is, because Tim, I was always in your mentality of Premier League experience, down in the league, get someone to keep you in the league. But I was always in that ballpark. And then I look at Bournemouth with Raiola, who had a plan in place. I know Gary O'Neill kept us up, and remember when Gary O'Neill left? By the way, there was uproar when Gary O'Neill left because what he did for them. But they went, no, this is our plan. This is what we're going forward. And then that's worked out. I always look back at Southampton when they got Pochettino in, and he was fucking outraged because he came from Espanyol, no one knew who he was, and then turns out is it a part of this point, though, here, Tim, right, where you have a plan in place with a manager to go, you know what? The point, this actual season is quite congested in the league. It's very congested. It's very tight. All we have to do is just be better than 3 for this season. Give Ruud 6 months to see what he needs to go. We're going to fucking stay up because we've got Jamie Vardy and he'll get 5 and Bobby the Cover Reed will get 5 or 6. By the way, we all probably rate as a good player, good Premier League, solid Premier League player, really good for Fulham. Yeah, every time he's played against Liverpool, he's tore our arse out. I felt like for at least 20 minutes of a football match. So, is there a point though, Tim, where you just go, we're not going down. We'll do 2 or 3 signings for him in January, finish 17th, and let's just kick on next year.
Yeah, I know, I get that part, but that's why I say it's risky though, because you're counting on that. Right. And I think you make a good point. It is very congested right now. A couple of points bumps you up like 4 or 5 spots and shit. So that's maybe an advantage. I think, you know, in some of the differences you have, and I don't know if Ruud can find a couple of people that works for him, like that Bournemouth squad, that Southampton squad had some players. I just don't see a lot of players in this Leicester squad that you can be like, oh, gotta get more out of them and stuff like that. Maybe because they're not getting shit out of them. That's why it looks like that. I just don't see anything where, like, you felt like, you know, that Bournemouth squad, that Southampton squad, even like, you know, you look at some of the, like this Palace team we're watching right now. If they had a different manager coming in, you can be like, man, there's a lot of good pieces over here if he plays them right. I just don't look at that Leicester squad and see the same thing, if that makes sense.
I do. I think if Ricardo Pereira, I think he's bang unlucky to be injured again. I think if he was fully fit, he wouldn't be at Leicester. I really rate Ricardo Pereira. I think he's a good player. Harry Winks is a good, solid midfielder. James Justin's a good player. Ndidi solid. Hamza Chowdhury, I was always a big fan of his. You know, Vestergaard is an okay. Connor Cody. I think there's a lot of experience there, though, fella. Do you know what I mean? I understand your point, but I actually don't think there's going to be that many points to get relegated this year. I think 34 might go to send you down. Like 34 could keep you safe, sorry. You know what I mean?
I agree with that, actually.
Already. They've got 10 already. That's they just think if we can now win 6 games, 7 games, and we're basically there. Do you know what I mean? And it's not a lot of games to win anymore. I think Everton stayed up against Bournemouth last year on 32 points or 33 points. It's not a good league. I think it's the right time to roll the dice, I think, for the club. I look at West Ham with Lopetegui and think, okay, you got a good win against Newcastle. Not arguing that. But it hasn't really worked up to now. Is there a good time to roll the dice on a young, expansive manager? Do you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like, is this a good time to do Potter at that West Ham team?
I think for West Ham, though, that's a good, okay risk. You're like, 15 points, you're 14th. You have like a really good team. A right guy can play him a lot better and stuff. I mean, you value the Leicester squad more than I do, I think. I just don't look at it and say,
fair enough.
Oh, man, there's so many good guys if they got most out of them. We're at the Wolves game.
Yeah, we're at Wolves here, and this is just why play back and just
way to throw your goalie under the bus. I mean, so this is the second goal they would have given away, basically, by themselves.
Yep. And I think this means Justin Kluivert is going for the hat trick of penalties.
Yeah.
Gets all 3.
That's crazy. Like,
I'm always
gave 2 of them away.
I'm always gutted that fucking Gerrard missed against United. You know, at Old Trafford when he missed his 3rd pen. I think we beat them 3-0, didn't we, with Suarez, and he scored 2 pens, and I'm always gutted he missed the 3rd. Sturridge dived for the pen as well. It was the worst dive you've ever seen on footy.
Oh, yeah, it's right up there.
I'm always gutted about that.
But no better team to do it against.
I know. Like, we never got a pen there for like 20 years or something. Yeah. We got 3 in one game.
3 in one game, and you only make 2 of them.
Ferguson was out the door. They were like, all the pens are coming now. You can have all the pens back. The big bad Wolves out the door.
Here's the thing for me about the Leicester thing is that if those players did that to Steve Cooper, they'll do that to Van Nistelrooy as soon as they're not happy.
Yeah,
they're just not a trustworthy group of players, I don't think.
I think it's
that was my question about having to just pick one and literally like jettison them or try to get one and do something, right? Like do something to make sure that they understand that there are consequences for your actions now.
I'll ask you the question on Gary, right? Because it's a good point. Do you think Van Nistelrooy demands more respect than Steve Cooper does? Because I think he does.
I think he does based on his name as a player. That's exactly it. Yeah. The problem is that disappears in 5 seconds if you can't do the job on the field, which we don't know yet. We don't know.
Yeah, wouldn't you, as a player, doubt Ruud more? I don't think Cooper was the right choice, by the way. I'm not big on Cooper. But overall, as a player, wouldn't you doubt Ruud more than you would Cooper?
You would think, but I don't think professional players don't think that way. They want to know what you've done on the field.
Yeah, I think they believe that the checkbook managers, the football managers, like people think they understand the sport, but I still genuinely believe a player wants to play for or listen, be critiqued by a player and not someone who's been a lifetime coach. And Steve Cooper probably was a player at some level at some point somewhere.
I think he was injured
early. But it doesn't matter because he's not Ruud van Nistelrooy, a player that these guys remember watching at United when they were kids, or hearing about their dads because they're all so damn young now. Like they heard their dad talk about watching him at United because we're old bastards. But I agree with that. I don't know that I'd want it. I didn't want an ex-player at Liverpool, and I think it's working out well that we have a guy nobody knew of. Or the last time I never heard of Arne Slot during his playing days, right? I think that's working out really well. But I think it's the mentality of the player. And I'm kind of with Maka. I'd be very worried if I was Ruud. I'd probably have a meeting with Jamie Vardy.
What's your back?
I think there's a part.
I think I'd have a meeting and figure out who the bad apples are. Was it a pocket of players that wanted to do this, or was this the whole team? Because if it's the whole team, I got a lot to fix. If it's just a little couple of the bad apples in the group, you fucking get rid of them and they don't ruin the bushel. Look at me with my American.
That's what Ferguson did when he went to United in '86. He got rid of like Stapleton and Norman Whiteside and all the drinkers, Paul McGrath, and then started building from there. But I think like the perfect example is Graham Souness. Like last week, I think it was saying that he didn't think Arsene Wenger was a football man, like because Arsene Wenger didn't play at a high enough level. It's ridiculous. Like there's this mentality that the higher you played, the more you know the game, which is
garbage. That's garbage, isn't
it? Yeah, it is. But that's the mentality of at least in British football is.
Yeah,
who did you play for? Where's your medals?
Yeah, it's very British mentality.
Yeah,
it's very.
It's like, what do you mean? Where are my medals? I am Jose Mourinho. I've won everything, and you're like, yeah, but what did you do when you were a player? Well, I am Jose Mourinho. I've won everything. It doesn't matter. And you're just like, yeah, just shut up.
I think there's a part though with Leicester, Jensen, probably our last thing on Leicester, really. I think there's two reasons. Number one, you forget that when Ruud's games at United, he played Leicester twice and beat them twice. Mm-hmm. I think that's a thing. Because that was a part of his 4 or 5 games that he won there, and 2 of them were against Leicester.
I remember saying, you guys are only beating Leicester, for God's sakes. Don't get excited. That's it.
Yeah. And he was like, no, this is a motherfucking job interview, people. Like, I am not just beating them. Yeah. I am actually picking out furniture for my new office. It's right it's right across from the home dressing room.
I also think as well there's been a conversation around the Leicester City job for a few weeks for Ruud. I think Ruud was waiting to see what Amaron did with him. When Amaron fucking decided he wasn't taking him, that Leicester did he was okay, I'm going to Leicester then. Do you know what I mean? I think that was a part of the conversation as well. The one positive I would say with
you think Ruud thought maybe, hey, I'll beat Leicester, maybe I'll stick around.
Yeah, maybe. I just think he waits for United. I think he waits for Amaron to make a decision. Because there's no way, because Cooper, I know they were poor against Chelsea and they were terrible against Chelsea, by the way. I just think there was a conversation that was had about that. The one thing a positive about Ruud I would say is, though, gents, for the 5 games that he had United or whatever it was, they looked like a bit of a football team. They actually looked like a bit of a competent, organised football team in a few games, which is nice to have. Do you know what I mean? Because let's get it right. A competent football team is the bare minimum in the Premier League, and he turned them into that for those few games. They actually look worse now. They look worse now.
To be fair, PSV is a good side right now, and part of that is the way that he left it.
Yeah,
he left them in a good position with a system. They're playing a very similar system.
He was Gakpo's manager, wasn't he? He was the one who got Gakpo to be where Gakpo is. He was Gakpo's manager.
And I know as a guy, I'm the only person who was born in the United States on this podcast right now, which is odd to say out loud. But as a guy who has ties to the U.S. men's national team and wants to see them succeed. Yeah. Two of the United States players in their best form right now is the Tillman kid, who was, I think, team of the week in the Champions League, scored the 2 goals, and then the kid Pepe, who is the 3rd leading scorer in that division right now, tearing it up, scoring goals for fun for club and country, and he's doing it at PSV, playing as the rude style striker in his system. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Leicester. But I wanted to get that from you guys before we get to the last. We got 5 minutes to go here. Palace is still attempting to make people wish they were watching paint dry instead of watch a football match. And Newcastle is just kind of kicking it around as they run out time. No other goals to report to, so we thought we'd take a look quickly at maybe take a look at the lineups if we have it, or talk a little bit about this lineup for the Arsenal versus West Ham match. So it looks to me like it's pretty much all systems go for Arsenal at the moment. They have Declan Rice back. They are playing Jorginho instead of Partey in the middle, which is a little interesting.
Yeah.
But starting with a front three of Trossard, Havertz, and Saka. Mark, I'll start with you on this one. Do you believe that Trossard, Havertz, and Saka is their best starting lineup? And if not, what would you have done for Arsenal in this matchup against a side like West Ham?
I mean, I'd have put Martinelli in there somewhere. Like, he's been having a run of form, hasn't he? You kind of have to go with the hot hand, but their thing is their midfield. I think, like Odegaard and Rice, as much as I dislike Rice intensely with a passion that was only felt by Mel Gibson when he made the movie The Passion. It's a damn good midfield.
We did mention that Jesus never sleeps.
Never sleeps.
So he came up in the first 10 minutes of Maka being on. He's coming up again with the passion. You literally brought up the passion of Christ on a soccer footy podcast.
But we talked. I think not before this season, before last season. I remember myself and Gally were talking, and I said Odegaard just doesn't strike me as a captain material, but he's turned out to be a very good captain, and how wrong I was. And Rice is a good football player. That's 99% of the bitterness almost. Well, it's not. It's 1% of the bitterness. The 99% is turning his back on Ireland. A swine. But it's a good midfield, and that's the platform through which that they play. I mean, Kai Havertz is Kai Havertz. He's going to look like a $1 zillion player, or he's going to look like you got him from a lucky dip bag, a Dollar General. Next to the funny Bazooka Joe joke and the flavorless gum or something like that. He's hot or cold. Saka's very good. I wish we had Saka. Like, if we had Saka as a young player coming up, like as a replacement for somebody in the front three, you'd be like, oh, we're in good hands. This is like the Curtis Jones of attackers. We're in good hands. So I'm kind of hoping for a coaching masterclass from West Ham, because on talent alone, it's a foregone conclusion, isn't it?
Timucin, with you in this one and the Arsenal, let's talk more regarding Arsenal's defense. Obviously, they're starting with 4 center backs, which is kind of that rage thing that happens all the time now. Timber, Calafiori, and then the ever-present partnership with Saliba and Gabriel and David Raya in the back. Finally, back to their first choice. I think this is actually the best group of defenders they have. I'm not a fan of Ben White. I know people love Ben White. I don't think he's that great of a player. I know the Tanning Booth people love him. The Tanning Booth people and those who sell all those hair plug extensions somewhere in Turkey, they love him too. But and the people who he hires to bring in and get the frosted tips. The guy spares no expense when it comes to the upkeep of his skin and hair. I like Timber. I think he's looked really good since he's been back and he's been fit. He gives them a little bit more going forward. His underlying numbers been really, really good. And Calafiori has clearly made it where Zinchenko he's an afterthought at this point.
He hates Zinchenko, doesn't he? He absolutely hates him, doesn't he? He's bringing on that Lewis Skelly and that over him, and now, bro, he just wants to batter him, doesn't he?
Pretty much what I'm thinking. Like, it's basically he has hit Kostas Tsimikas Jurgen Klopp levels. Like, he's officially reached that level of I dislike this player. So, Timucin, you're the defender.
I never get with Arteta. I was on like a show with like Arsenal dudes, and I was asking them like, it's okay, if Slot came over, right, and brought like 2-3 players from Feyenoord, you would think, okay, this fits the system perfectly. That's why you brought him over here and shit. Like, he brought Jesus, he brought Zinchenko, all these guys that he's never playing. Then why the fuck did you bring him over in the first place?
Let's ask you about that one. So, Jesus played. I think he played midweek in the Champions League. He got a run out there. Didn't score a goal, but did do a lot of things differently than Havertz. He played that Jesus, link up play. He clearly has a very good relationship with Odegaard and Saka.
And he's more like a whiny Bobby.
Is it about the money? Is it about the money they invested in Havertz and the fact that they know that the Havertz, Rice, Odegaard midfield doesn't have enough balance in it? Like, why? What is it about Gabriel Jesus that's keeping him out of the lineup, other than the fact he hasn't scored a goal in over 12 months?
And I think that's what it is. It's productivity number one. His whiny face probably is a big part of it, I would hope, because it would be for me. And then I really think they like the physicality of Havertz. I mean, what he can give you. If I'm a center back, like as a defender, who you have a guy who's moving around, last thing you want him to be is big as well. To battle with. Jesus, I feel like while he can kind of move around and take center backs here and there and kind of do some interplay, I feel like he's a slightly easier guy to defend than Havertz. Not that I'm a huge Havertz fan. I think he just gives you a lot more off the ball than Jesus does. I think that's why he's preferring them. And going back to their lineup, I mean, the danger with having this lineup is where basically, you essentially have 4 kind of center backs is defending against wingers. I don't have a lot of hope, mind you, for this game in terms of West Ham. I think they get exposed. I think that was just, we were seeing Newcastle and finally a goal by Crystal Palace. It took 94 minutes and this dude scored after us.
That's gotta be, well, I guess if you don't want a team to have good confidence, you can give one up in stoppage time and then have to spend 2 days thinking about it and training pitch ground. But it might have been a little false hope, overconfidence.
I think there's a part of all that come off this Arsenal team, the Jesus thing. First of all, Jesus has been dog shit this season, really bad. And I've watched every Arsenal game so bad. So there's that. I think what Havertz offers him is basically to get Saka into the game more. I don't need you running channels. I don't need my number 9 running a channel. I need my number 9 to drop deep. People say a Paul Bobby role. I disagree with that. I think it's more like a Luis Garcia role when he was in the 10. The differences with Luis Garcia was, and I've seen Rafa mention it once before, I knew he would play well 1 and 4. It'd be unbelievable, unplayable for 1 and 4. But I don't know when the 1's going to be. And I think that's where Havertz, you'll get that game where you go, fuck me, he was unbelievable today. Then you'll get the other game the week after going, he was anonymous. But one thing that Havertz does do, because he drops deep, he allows Saka to come into that space. Do you know what I mean? He allows Saka to do that cross-field run to get him into the box for Saka to do what Saka does, which is handy for them. I disagree with you a little bit, though, gents. I think this is a big chance for West Ham here. You know what I mean? They play on Wednesday away to Sporting, which, okay, they played well. They've won the game. And then you actually look at it and think, well, West Ham had played them Monday. They have a really good win. They've had a few days off. Is this the game that kickstarts their season? Because let's get it right. They're better than where they are in the league. They've got a better squad of players than where they are in the league. They've really underperformed this season. But is that the game? Away to Newcastle. If you get a win away to St. James's Park, it's always a fucking good win, no matter how you win. It's a really, really good win. And we should give full credit to them, by the way. I know Gordon missed a couple of good chances. Isaac missed a really good one on the turn. So, and I think that front four fella of Bowen, Paqueta, Somerville and Antonio can give anyone problems. I really do think they can give anyone problems, you know what I mean? So, I actually don't think this is a slam dunk as much as you think for Arsenal. I think they're going to have a really, really tough game here. Away at 5:30 under West Ham. If they keep them tight for 20 minutes, I think West Ham could really come into this.
I hope you're right, man. Thanks, Dan, by the way, listening from Sweden. Welcome aboard, sir. Welcome aboard.
Nice.
Yeah, I hope you're right as well. I think that there are times when you start to see the Arsenal team, for me, they play from the back. Their strength is their defense. I think that helps create opportunities for them.
Yeah.
I think that West Ham has proven at times they get overrun in these matches. And yes, it's coming off a good win, but I've also seen West Ham put in some really, really abject performances. Does look like they're starting to understand what the manager's asking them to do. And it does look like he finally has the faith in all of his summer signings because they're finally in his first 11, which they weren't for the first 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And you could see that. He was playing David Moyes' players and trying to get Lopetegui results.
Yeah.
And he was getting Moyes performances.
Yeah. I think Soler as well, by the way, played his best game. I think Soler was really good against Newcastle. And we all know he's a good quality player. Spanish international, play for PSG. He's a good player. Do you know what I mean? There's a player in there. The other thing that West Ham can feel sorry for themselves, they signed that striker, didn't they, that foot trek or something? And he's done his ACL. He's 31. He signed him for 28 million. Unbelievable money for a 31-year-old, by the way. But if that was meant to be the striker, do you know what I mean? Like I feel like they've had these strikers all the time who's meant to be the one, like Danny Ings and Scamacca and Halle. But then Michael Antonio just comes out the distance, as always, and just goes, I'm still playing 30 Premier League games, guys, no matter what happens. Because I'm Michael Antonio. I do think that is a thing. So I just think that front four, mate, is as dangerous as anything in the league, It really is. Somerville's a good player. Bowen can, on his day. If they get Paqueta back of where he was, I know he's got a lot of things going on off the pitch, but I just think if they get him back and playing the level he should be, I think West Ham can really trouble him today. Really
they can get him to bet on West Ham winning.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No one West Ham's looking, so we bet on Arsenal to win.
I just want to point out that Thomas Souček is the most West Ham Premier League era name ever. It seems like he's been playing for them since 1992.
Souček
full-time whistle. We got the full-time whistle at Crystal Palace. 1-1 draw with Newcastle. The late dramatic winner, as Kevin mentions, 15 shots to 1 versus the Tombs. They deserve something. He's probably right in that.
They definitely deserve the goal, man. I mean, it was so many times that was so close.
They're a weird team. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if they're going to stick or twist with the manager, because you get into the stage where, we're starting, we're 6 points off 15th. Before you know it, you're going to start being in a fucking you are in a relegation fight. We keep saying, Palace will string a few wins together. Hey, lads, we're afraid of the way they'll be through the season, when they haven't strung any wins together. Do you know what I mean? So when does that start to happen? You get into
I have more faith. No? I think I have more faith in Ipswich grinding out results just because they get draws against good teams and they steal points. And I think if you're down there, you have to do it. And I think you might be onto something. Let's just be honest. Isn't the most English football move right now is Crystal Palace fires the expansive manager who got 6 wins last year and hires David Moyes. Sam Allardyce. Imagine David Moyes walks in Selhurst Park and the mood at Selhurst Park just goes. I
like how they get Roy Hodgson. They go to the ball for 4 games and go, fuck that, no, this is shit. We're going to get fucking Hodgson back in. They go, okay, we'll get the expansive manager. He was good for 6 months. No, it's all went to shit. We'll get Moyes in. And they just keep going back and forth. It's in mad, isn't it?
By the way, I mean, look away, Kevin, but I mean, the schedule for Palace coming up is away at Ipswich. So I guess we're going to find out about that one. Then they play City at home, away to Brighton. Then they do a back-to-back with Arsenal, first in the quarterfinal away, and then at home. Then they go to Bournemouth. So that's a tough schedule until they get to December 29th and they play Southampton at home.
Need 6 points, don't they? At least. At least 6.
Yeah.
Hopefully, they really 3 against Arsenal, 3 against City. There you go. Done.
I hate to say it. Kevin says, bring back Roy. I hate to say it, Kevin. The more I look at that team today, and more importantly, the upcoming fixtures, what's around them. If they don't win some of these 6-pointers, they might find themselves in that relegation zone on January 1st. And if they're in that relegation zone on January 1st, that could be a long way to claw out. Because to Kazi's point, maybe Leicester catches a new manager bounce and catches some points. Maybe Ipswich gets a win and separates a little bit. Wolves look better, even though they had a tough result, losing 4-2 today. Match is still going on.
They're still hanging in there.
This is why we're still live. We should also mention Forest did hold on to beat Ipswich 1-0. So Forest back into European places on level with Chelsea and Arsenal. playing one more match on 22 points. So table's really, really shipping in nicely. My favorite thing, and we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but my favorite thing about this table right now is that Brighton woke up this morning in second place. And you got to feel great if you're a Brighton supporter, because your club does it the right way. You buy well, you sell well, you play expansive football, and you don't, to be honest, if anything, if you're a little bit more pragmatic, you'd probably grind out a few more results every once in a while and you pick up a point or two. But I love what they do. I love what how they play, and they have to be everybody's second favorite team in the division.
I think Brighton's biggest issue here, gents, is that they don't beat the teams that they should beat. Because they beat a lot of good sides. So, for example, they beat City. But then they draw it home with Wolves.
Right.
They draw it home to Ipswich, 0-0. They draw it home to Southampton, 1-1. You're like, do you know what I mean? Like, they're games you should win.
Yeah.
That's 6 points. Like it's okay.
Isn't that the difference between a team that's like regularly up top and
exactly, brother? It's okay. You going away to fucking Chelsea and winning, or sorry, Newcastle and winning. They went to Newcastle and won 1-0, didn't he? It's okay you doing that. And listen, it's a great win, and we can all have a big song and dance about it. And you can come from 2-0 down to Spurs at home and win 3-2. But you have to beat the teams that you should beat. This is my big Lukaku thing. Like, gents, everyone goes, "Oh, Lukaku, Lukaku will beat the bottom 10 twice. He won't get a goal away at Anfield, but he'll beat the bottom 10 twice. So his guarantee is, I'll get you 60 points. Now go and get your other bums to go and get you another 25 and win the league." Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And like that, I think that's when you look at like Welbeck and players like that, you need a player to go and beat the fucking bottom 10 twice. It's so important. And like Brighton is sitting second in the league, and Gallagher, it should be 100% celebrated. But they can look there and go, "Hey lads, we should be guaranteed Champions League football here. Like we got that's 6 fucking points. Like we should be far and away because of the size that we drew at home, Ipswich, Wolves. Like, you know what I mean? That's frustrating. I think if you're a Brighton fan, it should really pulling your hair out. It really should.
I think if you look at Brighton's games, they probably are pragmatic, but they're pragmatic in those big games that they're getting the points from, and they should bring that pragmatism into the games where we think they should be winning. It's almost like they think, "Oh, we don't have to do it here. It's only Ipswich." But that's actually the other way around. They should be thinking like, "Oh, we're lucky to be beating City here. Let's tie it down. And then when we're up ahead against Wolves next week, let's do it then as well." But they don't.
Isn't that how smaller clubs though start to make how they transition? Like, isn't that like what like when Leicester started their rebuild under Rodgers, right? Yes. They started by beating teams and taking scalps. They'd get a big win against Liverpool. They beat City, but they drop points to clubs. And then, like, to your point, they started to learn. Their squads got a little deeper. They started to play some European football. Like, I don't know that it would be best for Brighton to make Champions League this year, because I still think they're going to sell their 3 best players. It would be great for them. But I think as a club, making it into the conference and going deep, making it into Europa and making a run, I think actually might give them more experience, give them more time. And because I think if they made the Champions League, they would be like Newcastle, and especially in this format, playing 8 matches and having to qualify under this new format. I don't know that it would be as good. And we're getting ahead of ourselves here. The stream has ended.
I mean,
it's just one of those ways I look at it.
I get what you're saying. I just want to last thing on them, right? Though, mate, I do think if you're having that conversation of Matoma and Belieber to stay in the summer and you finish fucking second, it's an easier conversation to have, isn't it? It's a very much like, because Matoma might go, "I'm not going to City right now," or, "I'll have a little crack at this." Do you know what I mean? And we'll have a crack at that. And then you can all piece it together a little bit. I think there's a selling point in the summer and go, "Hey, lads, we lost 15 points there against bums you should beat." And that would have put us in a title race. Do you know what I mean? And I do think that is an easier conversation to have. It's also past the conversation, Gal, when you're trying to, when City come from Belieber, for example, in the summer, and you go, "Hey, he's a Champions League player, Hey, we can afford to pay him 120 grand a week this time because we haven't been able to do it." Do you get what I mean? And then there's another conversation again and go, "We need 100 million for them." But you only wanted 70 last summer. That ain't my problem.
But that same 120 grand, it's a 4-year contract. And if you're only guaranteed 1 year of Champions League football, sometimes it sets clubs back. And I don't know that Brighton will change their model, because in Brighton's world, you sell Belieber for 100 million. and you're like, we sold Caicedo for 120, we brought in Baliba for 20, and now he's worth 100. We'll find the next guy who's worth that.
This is a good debate, though, fella. When do Brighton get to the level of you got to change the model because you're getting fucking too good and you got to go for the Premier League title? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, we can laugh at that all you like, but they should be on 30 points and a couple of points behind Liverpool because the teams that they dropped to at home, that's where they should be. You have to change your model eventually. You can't just keep doing it and expect them to climb the league and challenge for the Premier League title. You get into a stage this season where the league's wide open. The league is wide open. Anyone can win the league. I know that sounds insane because Liverpool are so far clear. But if you're Spurs, for example, look at the teams that Spurs have got points to. Spurs should be sitting second in the league. Brighton should be sitting second in the league, like in terms of more points. I just think it gets to the stage, though, Gal, where you've got to go for it. You've got to take the reins off and go, right, this is it. We've got to live the dream here and we've got to get, you know what I mean? We're keeping these lads together. We're adding 2 boss players and we're going to go from there. I don't know. It just seems a bit weird to me, man, that they keep dropping points like that.
You're not wrong at it, and I think it would be interesting. We would love to. If you are a Brighton supporter out there and you want to join our panel show, you can send us a message.
Yes,
and we can get you on. We would love to hear what your opinion is on where the club is, where the club's going, how excited you were to wake up this morning, second in the table, and where you see it coming. So, guys, obviously, this is a Liverpool-centric podcast, a Liverpool-centric channel, but we cover the whole Premier League. So we got to get out of here quickly on tomorrow's match. I'm not positive if I will be on either the pre or the post tomorrow. Maka, you will be hosting the pre-match. Is that correct?
I'll host both if you need to.
Perfect. That's great. And we will.
Yes, he is. He just found out, but he is. Yeah.
Match
Get your goddamn alarm.
match starts at 11, so set that alarm. We'll probably start the pre-match around 10:15. Go for about 30 minutes or so, as we always do. But I did want to get you out of here. Each of you, if you have one for me. Maka, score prediction for tomorrow? Score prediction for Liverpool versus City tomorrow.
Timucin special 3-1. Liverpool.
Okay. Timucin.
I don't make the special for nothing, man. I'm still sticking with the special.
It's a full house, girl. It's a full house.
Yep.
All right, so I'm not going to rock the boat. I was going to say 4-1. No, I'm just kidding. I was actually going to go with the Timucin special, not the Orange Slot special. I think it's a wounded animal. I think it's a wounded duck coming into Anfield. I think Anfield's going to be ready for it. I genuinely think the crowd's going to be up for it. I think they're going to make it tough for City to get a foot on the ball early. I think Pep will be Pep. He will come in playing for a draw and not the crazy scored 3-3 draw. I think he's coming in.
Jesus Christ, but fucking hell, 3-3.
Yeah, I ain't got that in.
Kevin is trying to make up for today's lack of goals.
He's got to make up for the goals we missed watching freaking Palace wait 95 minutes for one today. No, I think this is one where Liverpool scores one in the first half, hopefully gets a second. I think the crowd is really, really important, and I think the crowd will be up for it. And I can't believe I'm going to say this. I believe they will go 11 points clear of City on December 1st, which is just an asinine concept to even think of. So for all of you watching, please go ahead, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel on YouTube if you haven't already. Send us a message, get involved, watch the programs. Thank you all for joining today's program, and we will see you tomorrow, hopefully for a pre-match and then a post-match talking about another Liverpool win. Have a great day, everybody.